Fake HOA cops said a black vet was lying he was SWAT's former lead trainer. Have you ever wondered what happens when a bully picks the wrong fight? It started on a muggy summer evening in Oak Ridge Estates, a quiet Georgia suburb where picket fences and manicured lawns hid a brewing storm. Marcus Tate, a retired black SWAT trainer, had moved here for peace after decades of high-stakes missions. But peace was the last thing he found when three men in knockoff uniforms calling themselves HOA security stormed his property. They accused him of lying about his military service, claiming his backyard shooting range used for private training violated their rules. Their leader, Karen Phelps, a self-appointed HOA enforcer with a clipboard and a sneer, screamed that Marcus was a fraud, a danger to the community. Her cronies had already ripped up his flower beds and smashed his wife's cherished garden gnomes, calling it evidence collection. The neighbors watched, some in fear, others in silent outrage, as Karen's voice echoed, "You don't belong here." Marcus stood on his porch, unflinched, his deep voice steady. "You're trespassing. Leave now." But Karen, emboldened by her fake badge, laughed. She didn't know who she was dealing with, a man who trained elite SWAT teams, defused hostage crises, and faced down real threats without breaking a sweat. She doubled down, waving a forged document that claimed his property was under HOA seizure for noncompliance. Her goons, armed with tasers and zip ties, stepped closer, assuming Marcus would cower. They were wrong. The truth began to unravel when a neighbor, Ms. Clara, a retired librarian with a knack for sniffing out nonsense, overheard Karen's rant. Clara had seen Marcus's service medals framed in his living room during a book club meeting. She'd also caught wind of Karen's shady HOA tactics, extorting fines, forging signatures, and bullying newcomers. Clara slipped away and made a call, not to 911, but to an old friend in the local sheriff's department. She whispered, "You need to get here. Fast." Marcus, meanwhile, kept his cool, his years of training kicking in. He asked Karen for her credentials, knowing full well her HOA security was a sham. She stammered, her face reddening as she clutched her clipboard tighter. Her partners, sensing trouble, started to back off, but Karen wasn't done. She shoved the forged document in Marcus's face, screaming, "You're no veteran. You're just a liar hiding behind a fake story." That's when the twist came. A low rumble of engines filled the air. Headlights pierced the dusk as two black SUVs rolled up, their doors emblazoned with Sheriff's Department SWAT. Karen froze. The neighbors gasped. Marcus didn't flinch. Out stepped Lieutenant Daniels, a former trainee of Marcus's, now a SWAT commander. Daniels recognized his mentor immediately and saw through Karen's charade. "Ma'am, step away from Mr. Tate," he said, his voice like steel. Karen sputtered, insisting her authority was legitimate, but Daniels wasn't having it. He'd already run her name through the system on the drive over, thanks to Clara's tip. Karen Phelps wasn't just an overzealous HOA member, she was a con artist with a rap sheet for fraud and impersonation. Her security team was a couple of hired muscle with no training, no badges, and no clue what they'd walked into. The confrontation hit its peak as Daniels and his team surrounded the group. Karen's bravado crumbled when a deputy pulled up her record on a tablet, reading aloud her history of scams in 3 counties. The neighbors, now gathered on their lawns, started murmuring. One, a young dad named Javier, shouted, "She tried to fine me $500 for my kid's basketball hoop." Another chimed in, "She said my dog's barking was a public nuisance," and demanded $200. The crowd's anger swelled, and Karen's goons dropped their tasers, hands raised, realizing the game was up. Marcus, still calm, stepped forward. "I served this country for 20 years, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I trained men and women to protect lives, not destroy them. You don't get to come here and tear up my home." He pointed to the shattered gnomes, the uprooted flowers, his wife's pride and joy. Karen, now pale, tried to bolt, but a deputy blocked her path. The SWAT team didn't need to draw weapons. Their presence was enough. Karen's empire of lies collapsed as she was cuffed, her clipboard clattering to the ground. The aftermath was swift and brutal for Karen. The sheriff's department uncovered a trail of forged documents and extorted funds, linking her to a network of fake HOA schemes across the state. She faced charges of fraud, impersonation, and property damage, with a potential 7-year sentence looming. Her accomplices turned on her, spilling details of her operation to avoid jail time. The neighborhood, once cowed by her threats, rallied around Marcus. Javier and Clara organized a cleanup, replanting his garden and replacing the gnomes with donations from every house on the block. Marcus's wife, Lena, a nurse who'd been working a double shift during the chaos, came home to find the community united, her yard restored, and her husband's honor intact. Marcus didn't gloat. Instead, he invited the neighbors over for a barbecue, sharing stories of his SWAT days and teaching Javier's kids how to toss a football. He spoke about resilience, about standing up to bullies, and about the power of truth. "No one gets to rewrite your story," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd. "Not when you've got people who've got your back." The neighborhood changed that day. The HOA, now under new leadership, rewrote its bylaws to prevent future abuses. Marcus became an unofficial mentor, helping neighbors stand up for their rights. Clara started a community watch group, ensuring no one could pull a Karen again. The wooden fence outside Marcus's house still bears that handwritten sign, "HOA lies exposed, a vet fights back." It's a reminder of what happens when you underestimate a man who spent his life fighting for what's right. What would you do if someone tried to bully you out of your home? Share your thoughts. Where do you draw the line between standing your ground and seeking justice?